little gathering. This week, Roddy has supplied the beer. The first one we're going to start off with is from Avery Brewing Company, Hazy-ish IPA, juicy and hazy India Pale Ale, bringing itself in at a 7.0. Nicely done, Roddy. Ooh, good to see you, brother. Delicious. Listen, we're going to let you guys know the temperature where we live has not been very warm, and Roddy and I are both delicate flowers. We like it to be nice and hot. So we're both a little worn out. I was on a little bicycle ride, probably overdid it. Roddy was working hard, and so what happens with Roddy when he gets tired and has a lot of stuff going on, he gets a little discombobulated and frazzle McDazzle, but we're going to do this anyway. And so just like the last episode, he's going to roll through it. And if you're here to listen, you're going to roll through it with us, and we're going to have a good time. And we've already been visiting just a little bit about some stuff, and we've been talking to kind of what we're going to go through, but we may jump all over the place. Roddy, you had a good week?
Yeah, it's a good week.
It's been a good week. You've been busy?
Yeah, I'm busy.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your visit with the barber a little bit?
Yeah.
As we were talking, and what's going on with that?
Yeah. Hey, dudes and dudettes.
I knew that was coming.
So, my barber, or it's a woman, and she's cool, very cool.
Nice.
And I was frustrated and this and that and the other of my seizures and stuff, and just in my head, I was thinking, I want to tell a story of my stroke, and I was just thinking, okay, I could say something, so after my stroke, I was thinking, couldn't communicate and stuff. So I was like, so that's the time. I was like, that's the story. So like I said, my barbershop or woman barbershop, I was like to myself, it's like, you can't imagine, you cannot imagine what my inner thoughts are saying. And just, can you imagine, though, you are in your car or golfing or laying around the house or working, and just out of the blue, major stroke. And you had to do emergency room, and you have a bed to flailing around, and it may be a month of just being being the patient or the hospital, and then they are trying to occupational therapy, and myself, speech therapy, and sooner or later you're gonna have to go home. And what the problem is myself. I was working. A lot of people are working, and now you have no money because it's 160, 180. It's a 180 turn. It's like, so you have no money now. You have a house or apartment, and that's going to be difficult to figure out the income. And maybe like myself, I had a lot of friends, but now I have one friend, and it's like, but how could you know? How could you feel that you're left alone to wander or to figure out my surroundings? And it's now it's 3 years of this stroke, and I'm still trying to reorganize. And my thank God my independence are going again. So it's frustrating, and it's frustrating. It's angry. It's sort of in my brain, or in my thoughts. It's like, so I just want to tell you that do not have a stroke. Don't have a stroke.
All right. Let me ask you, Roddy, do you remember, I mean, it probably would be difficult to think back, but, you were talking about the stages that this occurred. Like when it first happened and you were in the hospital, of course, there's a lot of, probably confusion on your part for like what's happening. And then do you remember at each stage where it kind of transitioned, like you were in the hospital bed and then eventually they got you to the point where they were thinking, okay, we can do physical therapy. And you were like, what the fuck are you talking about, physical therapy? And then you were like, okay, we're going to do speech therapy. And you're like, what are you talking about, speech therapy? Were you unprepared, like mentally, emotionally? You're just like, what are you saying? Or were you ready? Or do you remember?
I was surprised.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah.
But I knew that it was going to be a battle.
Right.
It's like I can see that it's not going to be good.
Right.
It's weird. My memory, it's fine. So it's like, oh, that's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And this is not going to be good, and this is not going to be good.
When you say your memory's fine, isn't it like the short-term memory though you've had struggled with?
Yeah.
At different points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the long-term memory has always been pretty much intact.
Yeah.
Which, because we have visited a lot about our childhoods and stuff, and you just talk that stuff out, but then there's stuff more recently that you have struggled with, and that is infuriating, I'm sure, right? You're just like, well, this just happened and I can't tell you what it is because I can't bring it up right now. And then usually it does. I've noticed with you, it usually does come around.
Yeah.
Either later in the conversation or the next time I see you, you're like, hey.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, oh, because it just in my house, I'm like, oh, now I remember this.
Yeah.
So it's delaying. It's like, oh, I remember that now.
So when you were going through these first beginning stages of, like the occupational therapy and hitting whatever marks you were supposed to hit or not, were you aware, okay, this was successful, I'm on track, or this was not successful, this is messed up? Or were you it was a hard battle for you, and you're a hard-working dude. So I'm just curious, in your mindset, were you thinking every time, like, I got to do this, I got to do that? Was it, did they even tell you, hey, this is what we have planned for the next 2 weeks? Or did you just wake up every day and you just went to town on whatever they told you were doing for the day?
Yeah, well, people that are strokes, they're like myself, I have symptoms of this, but another stroke victim, they are different types or different, it was like an example, what to call the foot drop.
Yeah.
The foot drop, that would be awful.
Yeah.
But but thank God for my CrossFit. That's the thing, is I think that it's ready to be reunited.
Yeah.
So physically, I'm so much better up at the top
Right.
than normal person.
Right. You've always been athletic and worked
Yeah.
hard physically.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to open your phone and let me read the definition of what you had showed me earlier?
Ischemia.
Yeah. So Roddy has on here exactly what he wanted me to read this. It's the stroke, the condition that he has called ischemia, and it's a local deficiency of blood supply produced by vasoconstriction of local obstacles to the arterial flow, basically a blood clot. And there's other types of stroke, but that was the major stroke issue that he had. And it was life changing for sure. And I just remember, going in and seeing you after the day or two after it happened, and I walked out of there, and I was pissed off for you, and I was just like, this guy is such a hard worker, such a nice guy, but listen, we all know there's no rule of thumb of who gets what, any of this stuff. My mom had got cancer 3 times, and you're like, okay, that's crazy. Who gets cancer 3 times? And, obviously was able to survive the first 2 and did not survive the second one. Lost her at 52 years of age. And, it was I'm not going to lie, it was a long time letting that one go as far as the anger. You're just like, this is bullshit. And I remember feeling kind of the same issues. It's like, how's this happen to a guy just out of the blue, no health issues at all? But it wakes you up, because there is no rhyme or reason to these things. You were saying to me earlier before we started recording, you were just saying, you just never know. You could be in your yard raking leaves. You could be at the gym. It could happen to any single person at any single time.
Yes.
And basically your point was no one's really prepared for it.
No.
No one's, listen, we could talk about, I was going to say, no one plans for a tornado, but we prepared for a tornado. And then I just remembered you had a tornado taco your house. So we'll talk about that story later. But it's a good point, though. You had a plan, whether you stuck with it or not, it's for the later story. But, we prepare for those things. And, if the power goes out, we all have plans. No one's sitting around, even me, after you going through this. I haven't sat around going, okay, I've thought for a 10-minute time span, what would I do?
Yeah.
And then I give up, because I'm like, I don't know if I would hold up as well as you. I know you've been angry. You've been,
I'm still angry.
And still angry.
Yeah.
And you've had times where you were depressed severely, and you've had times where you've had suicidal thoughts, and those are all things that, and I'm just like, damn, it is a difficult thing to have lived through, and you have, and we always like to say, come out the other side, and I think you have. However, you're still trying to get yourself back to where you want to be. It's a remarkable story, but I understand it. So I was just, in my mind, I was thinking, so were you aware of the process that even though you were getting punched in the face with negative news and not reaching did you know, oh, this shit's going to happen. I'm going to get there.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird. Like I said, though, myself, I'm lucky to be alive, but some persons like
didn't.
It's like I said, it's a major stroke. Somebody else would be major stroke, and it's dead, and it's died.
Don't survive.
And it's awful, but that's the truth, though.
It is. It
is the truth.
Yeah. When you first started going to speech therapy, that was with a company, but with the insurance, right? And then eventually it migrated to that insurance ran out.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when that insurance ran out, who got involved that got you set up with Missouri State's program, where students that were in that got involved with you?
The company of the speech therapy.
Okay.
She was like, hey, have you seen about this? Have you known about this? And it's like, well, I could write down and say I could Google it or something else. And she'd write a number and it's been a year to wait a term. No, wait process. No, it is 1 year to wait.
Okay.
Yeah, to wait.
Okay.
It's just to wait.
So I remember you telling me, hey, insurance is going to run on my speech therapy, and we were talking, maybe I could do some stuff online. Maybe there's a way to learn. And I just remember thinking, how the hell does insurance run out if you're not there yet?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Who? It's always horrible to think that there are people sitting in a boardroom somewhere going, hey, and they probably don't know jack shit about stroke victims, and yet they got to decide the time frame that someone should be eligible for insurance for speech therapy after a major stroke, which there's not even a precedent that says the average stroke victim recovers speech issues within this period of time. So how would there ever be? I mean, I feel like insurance, you're still paying for insurance. You paid for it your entire career.
Yeah.
Tons of money.
Yeah.
I feel like you should be covered until your speech is where a doctor says Roddy is at the furthest point he's ever going to be. Then you can pull the insurance. But to just say, hey, I know you're not really anywhere close to where you could be, but we're going to pull the plug on this one.
Well, but it's a slow process though. So my language speech. My language. It's a slow process, but it is like I said, rewiring. So it's improving, but it's going to take a long time to do this.
Right.
Maybe 10 years. I don't know. But but another person says it maybe we won't do it in the lifetime. Yeah, and that's the thing is the strokes, they are just one person, and then the other one is another person.
Yeah. And there are other people that have recovered really quickly from that standpoint as well. But I just remember when you first told me about it, I just, I struggle with insurance companies just in my mindset, they're always making money and, at the expense, you pay, and then you have a claim and all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're going to drop you or they're going to raise your rates or whatever. And, my wife was in an accident many years ago and the company that we were with did a little paperwork finagling and got out of paying her about $50,000 in medical issues that needed to be taken care of for her and treatments that she should have had. And every time I see their very popular commercials on right now with, Patrick Mahomes, it just, kills me inside to think this awesome athlete of a team that I'm a big fan of is participating in commercials for this vile company. So, but I just think, listen, I know they're in the business of making money, but I just feel like they leave people hanging more often than not when it's necessary. Let's talk a little bit. I want people to get to know a little bit about you each time we do these things. So why don't you got a good childhood funny memory of yours that you think kind of epitomizes maybe who you were as a squirt, maybe who you were as a kid, I don't know, teenager or younger, something you did that would say, yeah, that's pretty much who I still am today. Or, anything out there?
Myself, I'm like a grown ass child. Grown ass child is like, I still laugh, and it's like 16-year-old for the rest of my life. It's like, so I'm a little crazy. I'm a little oddness. It's just my thing till the day I die. And that's the truth.
Yeah. Do you remember What was the worst thing you ever got grounded for when you were a kid?
Oh, well, I'm the only. I am the. I am the oldest. I am the oldest, so I am a sinner. I am a saint. I'm a saint.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, and so I was good kid. Good kid.
Really?
Yeah, I was a good kid.
So you're telling me logistically that you not one time on record did you get grounded or?
No. Now my sister. That's another.
Oh, you're throwing your sister under the bus.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Well, listen, I'll tell you a story, and this one, my wife still has a hard time believing that I did not tell my mother. My mom was a pistol. She was probably 5'3", Irish woman, just a fire stick. And this is when we lived out in Idaho, and a friend of mine and I were out in the back area past our yard between two houses, and then there was a barn and a field. And we were out there playing Army and Air Force like kids always did. And this guy had a bunch of cabinets in the back of his field, and somehow at some point we decided it would be a clever idea. We got some wooden matchsticks, and we got inside the cabinet and acted like we were in a fighter jet plane, and we would pop the cabinet open and shoot those matchsticks out like they were missiles. Pew, pew, pew. And we close the door, come back out, pew, 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 and close the door. About the fifth time, I just remember popping that cabinet door up and jumping out to do another round, and the entire area of grass was on fire around us. Just like, oh, shit. I don't even remember how old we were, probably 9, 10. And, it was right behind our house. So we took out of there super fast. And obviously it didn't take long for people to see it and call the fire department. But luckily the guy's barn did not burn down. And so we ran off, and then we came walking back, walked up on the fire engines. We're like, what's going on? What's happening? And I walked up to my mom, and she looks at me and she goes, what's going on? Really? You don't know anything about this? And I go, no, we were hiking. We've been gone the whole day. And, fast forward all these years, every once in a while, my mom would just say, hey, anything you want to talk about as far as the cabinets and the fire? And, kind of made me think maybe she saw me out there, but I never folded. I'm like, nope. You know what happened. It was just, natural. I don't know what happened there. So, fast forward to really close to the end of my mom's life. Hospice was taking care of her part-time during the day, and then I would take care of her morning and then come home at night. And so, saying it now, it's still funny to me because my mom has a really good sense of humor. And she asked me probably 3 days before she passed, she sat down, she's laying in her bed. She taps on the thing, says, come over here and sit with me for a minute. She called me Michael, and I knew I was in trouble. So I sit down, and she goes, listen, I just want to give you an opportunity to, all these years, to come clean and see if there's anything you want to tell me about that fire that happened in Blackfoot, Idaho, when we lived there, with that fire in the barn and cabinets that were out there. And, I looked, and, she was grinning a little bit, and I said, no, Mom, I still to this day, I have no idea how that fire started. And of course, my wife was like, how could you do that? And I said, well, when I see my mom again, we're both going to get a good laugh because I didn't fold. She'll be proud of me. I know she will be because, she if I would have folded, that may have been disappointing to her, but I just kept going with it. And she's a Spitfire, so I know she'll probably chase me down the hallway or something with a broom when I see her the next time or something. But that's, that was my childhood. So I think we both have honor streaks in us, and we both have humor in us, and we both have faced things that I think make us, very similar. I think that's why we're drawn together. And I just think you're a wonderful dude, and I love hanging out with you and drinking beer. And I think we'll stop here for this one. What do you think, Roddy?
I think so.
All right.
I think so.
Guys, anybody listening, we appreciate you being here. This is just Roddy and I doing a little visiting. Made it through this beer. We're about to start another one, which Roddy brings in the heat. He's got the second lineup. I don't remember the name of it, but it's at 8%. Like, damn. But we'll step up our game. We'll do the 8% next. All right. Peace.